we see?
So,
Haley.
So Haley, Anne, and Jenna, I all met through the Global Girls group that you see in the film. And then
Fang.
Fang, we met from FCC Northern California.
So Fang is from Northern California.
Mm-hmm.
Haley is from
Nashville.
Jenna
Is from Newburyport, Massachusetts.
and
Anne is from Lansdale, Pennsylvania.
so they seem to be remarkably smart young women. They all share that, as well as very attractive, I thought, just beautiful young girls. Was it easy when you approached them to convince them to be part of this movie?
You know, so first when I got some recommendations, I would talk to each of their families first. Got to talk to the parents first, and explain what I was doing and why they should trust me. And then I would talk to each of the girls on the phone, and then I went out to meet them. And you know, they were very positive about the film. And what I explained to them, and I said, okay, that's great. I'm glad you're positive about the film, but let me tell you what's really going to happen is that I'm going to come to school with you with a camera, and I'm going to ask you some really, really deep questions, and let's talk about this and what this really is going to look like. I'm so glad that you want to participate, but let me tell you what this is really going to look like. And then they were, you know, a couple of them were kind of like, And but I said that my biggest selling point, which is the truth, which is doing this and being open and being honest, is actually a huge gift to a lot of people, to all the girls that are younger than you, and to their families, and then hopefully to a very wide audience. Because while this is important to speak to adopted people, it's also important to start the dialogue and the conversation between non-adoptive families, because you know what, we're all families, and we have to find the common language to talk about adoption so that it's easier to talk about. Because for some people it's more complicated because there's not a common language in a way. So I said doing this would be a huge gift, and they all said yes because of that.
One of the things that really stands out is you could have done a documentary about the parents. These people just seem to be so extraordinarily generous and beautiful to do what they've done. And late in the movie, we even see a little Chinese girl who has cerebral palsy and has developmental issues that she'll have all of her life. And she gets adopted by a family who already have a daughter that they've adopted who has similar issues. I mean, there aren't words for it. It's just to see this kind of generosity of spirit alone makes you want to cry.
Well, you know what? One thing I say is that if you don't cry when you watch this movie, then I'm worried about you. And second of all, you know what? People come together to create families because they want to create a family, you know? And there's all different ways of making a family, biological and not biological. And, you know, I feel, and my husband, you know, we feel like we're the luckiest people in the world to have our daughter, to have Ruby in our life. So for our family, so, you know, there are some people who use, like in the film, where people talk to the girls about being lucky. It's a really, really kind of awful term in a way, because it puts a value in a place where maybe there shouldn't be value judgments. You know what? We want to have a family, and the children need a family, and we come together to make a family. So I think, yes, I do think that Cheryl and her family have an extra incredible, energetic and patient spirit, and to be able to understand how to handle cerebral palsy. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of people out there who have cerebral palsy, and to understand how to work with it and to have the understanding and the knowledge and to be able to share that is a pretty impressive thing.
One of the currents that runs through this is you hear several of the girls say, I feel yellow on the outside and white on the inside about their identity issues. Who am I? Can you talk about that?
You know, that was something that was really interesting for me to explore about them. I asked each of them, I said, do you feel like you're how do you classify yourself in a way? Are you American? Are you Chinese? Are you Chinese American? You know, I asked each of them that, and that's actually where this idea of somewhere between came from.
The title of our documentary.
The title of our documentary, exactly. And so, you know, I feel like I think there are a lot of interesting assumptions when it comes to race in America. You know, there's someone told me once that if you ask an African American person where they come from and they say, you know, Chicago, okay, great. Someone will come up to you and say, where are you from? They'll say Chicago. That's the end of the story. But that if you go up to an Asian person in America and say, where are you from? And they say Chicago, they'll say, no, where are you really from? And there is this kind of extra layer of is it assimilation? I don't know, or assumptions, or, I mean, there's obviously lots of race conversations to be had. So I think that it's in terms of these young women navigating who am I, you know, 2012 in America right now. I think that there's a lot more conversations to be had about race and assumptions about race, and culturally, when you sound like one thing and you grow up somewhere and you speak the language, and yet there's a question about where you're from and how you fit in.
You also have one of the girls is very intent on trying to find out, even though we've heard from the very beginning, there's billions of people in China, the records are not really kept. These girls are abandoned and put in orphanages. We don't even know their real birth dates or maybe their real names, and yet they want to find out, where am I actually from? And for some of them, it's not an issue, and that seems kind of wonderful, you think. They're just getting on with their lives and dealing with what's in the reality right now. But for this other girl that we see, it becomes really the dramatic heart of the film as she goes back and finds her family. And one of the wonderful things is she finds out she was not, quote, abandoned. She wasn't just put out on the street the way we heard about another story. Mm-hmm. You know, sit here, says her brother, and I'm going to come back and get you, and nobody ever does.
Right. Well, I mean, one of the important things in choosing these four remarkable young women was to show that the similarities and the differences. And for some, like you say, it was important to explore their roots, and for some, it's not as important. And, you know, we're all so different. I think that there is for the ones that want to search, it makes sense on a certain level because it's a natural human idea to say, where am I from? And I think that some people take it, you know, some people take it certain steps. They'll visit China, and then some people take it bigger steps and they'll do the search. And you're right, it was an absolute shock to find the birth family and to see all of that happen. It was an absolute. None of us expected it.
As a filmmaker, don't you sit there and do cartwheels at this point when this is happening and saying, my movie is now got a climax, my third act is going to be astonishing?
Yes, the documentary gods are shining on me. Yes, it's true. You know, and that is the kooky, crazy thing about documentary is that you just don't know. You don't know what is going to happen. You put out all of these fishing lines. You say, I'm going to explore this question. You put out all these fishing lines and you wait to see what happens. I mean, in The World According to Sesame Street, we had been to Bangladesh 5 times. You know, all of these amazing things were happening with the program there, all of that. And, you know, my partner looked at me and said, we have no conflict. We have no conflict. And you don't want bad things to happen to people, but you need something in the story that's going to have some conflict. So, yes, when this happened, we were very happy. You know, it all came as a huge surprise to me. I actually wasn't with Haley on that trip. So I got a
phone call?
I got an email with the subject line was in all caps and it said, Linda, open this immediately. And her email was, I think I found my birth family and you're not here. So, but luckily, I had given all 4 girls a little camera to do video diaries because I couldn't be with them all the time, all over the place. And also, there was a woman named Tina Veer who was with her family who traveled with Haley's family that